Hi, everybody. Jeff Fish, VP of Strategic Partnerships at Salesforce. Have been in the e-commerce / social commerce space on and off for, 18 years. Past 5-6 years, I've been heavily focused on China. Started out heavily focused on the WeChat ecosystem and WeChat payments and WeChat Pay, both inside China and globally for cross-border. And for the past year, I've been heavily focused on bringing products to China, commerce products with Salesforce.
Yeah, thank you, Jeff. Thank you for your introduction. This is Raymond, the founder and CEO of GeoSwift. We are a fintech company focusing on the cross-border payments, provide the services to Amazon, JP Morgan Chase, MasterCard, Bookings, Uber, and many other well-known clients in the market. Specialized in cross-border solutions for the e-commerce, education, and the travel industry. Yeah, thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Michel Chung. I'm based in London, so it's afternoon here already, a little bit later than the rest of you. So I've been in the digital space for about 20 years now, predominantly in the e-commerce and CRM space, working with multinationals as a consultant, as well as on the brand side. So most recently, I was the global head of digital for De Beers Jewelers. So in the luxury space, where I was responsible for 20 odd markets and serving our clients digitally there. And now I've recently joined Chat Labs, who provide services, cross-border support for multinationals going into China.
Thank you, Michelle. So I'm Jeremy Bellistock from Verifone. I'm responsible for what we call our advanced payments business. So traditionally payments both in-store and online that authorize and run outside of traditional rails, the likes of some of them mentioned them, Alipay, WeChat, Klarna, PayPal, Venmo, etc.
Okay, I think since Eagle, who's going to be our moderator, hasn't joined, I'll step in for him for a moment. Why don't we go with one of the topics around global payment trends? And I think global payment trends are top of mind for everybody on this call. Why don't we start with you, Jeremy? What's your point of view on global payment trends as it relates to emerging products and transformation that's been going on in the market?
So that's an excellent question. I see from my perspective in the advanced payment space, a lot happening with wallets, in different types of wallets, whether they be peer-to-peer wallets, whether they be wallets that are enabling consumers to do buy now, pay later and financing, as well as wallets where consumers are housing cryptocurrency. And so as you see wallets of these different types, whether they be peer-to-peer, social, et cetera, consumers wanting to leverage not only the currencies that are there, but also the other, if you will, experience and capabilities of those to pay, to share, to send, to message, and let their network of people that are associated with them know about what they're doing. And again, leverage those functionalities to also pay in store and online.
Okay, great. Why don't we go over to Raymond? Same question, Raymond. What's your point of view?
Yeah, I agree with Jeremy that the wallet is very popular in the market right now. In the different countries, there are different players to run the e-wallet system. I think that the key is we need to understand why the e-wallet can do a lot of works compared to the bank accounts in different countries. that's always related to the consumer's experience, because the e-wallet system can bring a better customer's experience compared to the traditional bank accounts. And also, if you're talking about the trend in the global payments, the digital currencies is coming as well. That's another thing we need to look into. The digital currency, including the currencies issued by each country, like the DCEP in China, which is Central Bank of China already started, and also the blockchain technology, how to improve the efficiency of the information flow. So that's something we pay attention to and try to leverage all those benefits to the market. Thank you.
Thanks, Raymond, for the introduction. Yeah. So Jeff, Jeremy, do you want to do the self-introduction as well, or you already did that? Yeah.
I think we covered introductions. Maybe Eagle, you want to introduce yourself?
Okay. I was a head of a WeChat Pay in the past 9 years when I was serving at Tencent America. So I'm very glad to be the moderator for this panel. Yeah, sorry for being late a little bit. So now we jump to the discussion sections. Yeah. So so first of all, I think we already did a self-introduction. Jeremy, did you introduce yourself? And Michel Chung? Yeah.
Yes, we have all Eagle.
Okay, that's great. So we want to talk about the global trend for the e-commerce and the payment. Yeah, continue for the session. So okay, so from your perspective, Michel, I know that you, Michel and Jeremy, do you want to talk about the social commerce space evolving and also the recently impact of the coronavirus in the past 2 years?
Sure, I'll give that a go. So during coronavirus, I was actually I was still brand side, so I was managing the e-commerce for the De Beers brand globally when coronavirus hit. So it's been a very it was a very interesting year. I think the first thing that happened was it was everything was very reactive, right? Nobody knew what was going to happen the next week, and shops were closing left, right, and center. Had issues with logistics and fulfillment because we're fulfilling out of our stores. So so constantly having to deal with that. But quite quickly we saw a massive uptake in the e-commerce space, of course, because of all the stores being closed, and this is also where we started to see behavior of consumers as time moved on, which is more closer to what people have been doing in China through social commerce for a while yet, and that's more like conversational commerce. So we in the West have always been used to, you go to a website in your browser, you Google some products or whatever, you end up on the website and you click and pay, and that was the e-commerce journey. But nowadays, when people were forced online, they were starting to buy products that they never even thought they were going to buy online, and they were trying to figure out new ways of getting information about that product that made them feel comfortable of purchasing those goods. So we saw, so the first thing that we did when we saw all the inquiries coming in from the clients online through live chat, etc., was to start with live streaming and conversational commerce. So that allowed our store staff to, through video conferencing, show products, actually guide the customers through all of their questions and answers, and have more like a nurturing sales journey that you're used to in a physical store. We saw that moving online. Now, the really interesting part was for retailers then was commissions, right? Because in the stores, the sales associates sell something to a client, they get the commission. Online via e-commerce, that was not the case. So we had to find also methods around attributing the sale to the sales associate, and the stock needed to come from the store pool rather than the warehouse. So what happened instead of the standard e-commerce journey is the guidance was happening virtually with the sales associate. Then the sales associate was actually sending payment links. So payment links became really, really important for us during COVID. And through those payment links, the client would then was more comfortable to pay via a payment link than actually going through our website, because they were talking to someone, and because they had that trust, they gained the trust. That person gained the trust from them, and then what was key as well is that we could trace that transaction, that we still had all the fraud checks, etc., that we could do through that payment link. That we can see the funds coming in, and then the store associates had to have access to all of that in the store, all that information to send out the goods. So in a very short space of time, we went from just pure play website e-commerce to guided selling journeys with conversations and messaging and payments through payment links in conversations rather than through the website journey. So that was really interesting space to see evolve last year.
Sure, thanks. How about you, Jeremy? Will you talk about from your angle for the past year, especially you want to comment on the contactless payment and some of the recent development that you see as a trend? Yeah.
So I talked a little bit about it before, but we saw something similar in the sense that wallets became very, very popular as e-commerce picked up. So a lot of people signed up. If you saw the releases, the quarterly releases from PayPal on the number of new users that they got for both PayPal and Venmo, in terms of signups of new clients that were being added because of the trust that's associated, not having to expose your card, et cetera, the numbers literally went through the roof. And now you have a whole bunch of consumers that trust that wallet, whether that be for both online payments, but now also extending to in-store payments, having that same trust in the wallet where you're storing your money, where you're sending your money from, watching the social messaging aspect, so being able to see in the social feed what's happening with your friends when they spend from Venmo. So all of that, again, this trust that's been generated or garnered by these wallets that consumers are signing up to, because they still want to Michelle's point, they still want to buy. There's still that ambition to do that, but the merchant's got to find a new way to do it, and the consumer's got to find a way that they feel is comfortable and secure way for the consumer to pay.
Okay, thanks. So next question is going to Jeff. Yeah. So Jeff, for multinational companies that they have a global strategy, cross-border is always challenging. Yeah, especially when your business might not be evenly distributed. You might have like a majority business in Western world, for example, but relatively much less in some of the APAC areas. So how do you grow up the business by working and driving the partnership in those areas so that you can fill the gap?
Yeah, I think it's becoming more and more challenging over the past couple of years, not just because of COVID. I think COVID made it so that, distribution centers and boots on the ground were challenging, but also because of the various data residency and cybersecurity laws that have come into play. And, if you look at the past 3-4 years, almost every region, Europe, North America, Asia, specifically China, India, Singapore, Australia, Switzerland, you could go across countries around the world and look at how they're dealing with data compliance and residency. And they are starting to put guarded rails around their business and in that country. So you have to have payment processing that keeps the data in that specific location. So organizations are starting to become much more distributed, not just from a distribution perspective, but also from a compliance and an execution perspective. And I think we'll start to see that trend continue to accelerate, not decelerate as we come out of COVID.
Thanks. So for Raymond, I have a question for you. You talk about the digital currency, especially central bank digital currency policy regulatory topic just now. Since you are on the advisory board for both Canada and China in terms of central bank digital currency regulatories, can you talk about the major challenge and worry they have, and what might be the best way for us to get out there?
Well, if we're talking about the digital currencies, there are two trends in the market. One is for each government that try to issue their own digital currencies. So we can see the digital RMB in the market right now. US, Japan, Europe, and many other countries are considering to issue digital US dollars or digital Japanese yen in the market. That's one way. And another trend is for the existing digital currencies or cryptocurrencies. They want to be internationalized. They want more and more people from the different countries to use it. From our point of view, the regulators are still very conservative to the cryptocurrencies in the market. They are still think the currencies, US dollars or CNY, need to be digitalized. That's the future, right? So that's why we can see in China they already started, and we're be chosen to be the sandbox of that project for the cross-border to use the digital DCEP in the real case study. For example, in the education sector, in the e-commerce sector, that's the first step for the market to see how this digital currencies issued by the central bank to be used in the real case. So we are very excited to see what happened after our sandbox project. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, since you talk about the different categories of the business, we know that in East Asia, especially mainland of China, the consumer market payment, we see two major players there, Alipay and WeChat Pay. So from your perspective, how do you build a solid business? Well, they're already like overwhelmingly dominating the market. And what might be the best recommendation that you have for the industrial peers?
Yeah, so I just want to add comments to Jeremy and Michael and Jeff on the last topic. If you think about talking about the global trends on the payment business and also for the cross-border sector, we are not just think about a difference of the culture of the country, but also the big gap among the generations. In our age, we think Facebook is good and we are buying from internet. We are much better than our parents because they always go to the retail store for shopping. But you think about the young generation, they're crazy. They play TikTok all the time, and they start to buy from the live stream, okay, not from the internet or from the store anymore. So that's in last year, for example, we double our numbers, which is a huge growth in the e-commerce side. COVID-19 changed the world a lot, but if you think in the near future, probably all those young people, they are still waiting to stay in a small room and do everything within that room. So the payment itself, we think it should be beyond payments. You cannot just be a payment processor to help these people to pay, to buy something, but also you need to provide additional services. That's the key. That's the key. So think about mainland China. Yes, Alipay and WeChat dominate the market right now, over 90% shares. However, for our other players, they're still doing well. The the most important is you need to keep bringing the value to consumers and also to the business. So that's very important for any companies to think about the market first, the consumer first, then design your product to meet their requirement to bring the good customers experience. So I think the young generation, they're quite simple, right? So they don't care about the brand, they don't care about the pricing somehow, but they do care about the experience. Okay, it's easy, right? It's more convenient for them to do anything in that small room. They will love that solution. So that's our some sharing in our past years.
I think to add to what Raymond was saying around the much younger generation, and especially in China, I think we're going to start to see trends that are happening in China or have been happening pre and post COVID start to extend globally. So if we think about private traffic, that's something that is almost nascent in the West, and that's coming. It started with live streaming or live selling, where sales associates in the stores are live streaming all day long. You're not thinking about influencers or KOLs anymore. Anybody can be a live seller. To this extension to private traffic selling, where you go into, as Raymond said, you go into a room or a group, and that's where the sales happen. And we're going to start to see brands really start to shift that way. And digital payments have to be frictionless and fast for those consumers to be able to shop. And I think that's a trend that's coming to the West immediately.
I think one of the other, I think, completely agree with your point, and Raymond, especially around the experience. And like what I've been really fascinated with is the what here in the UK, the rise of Klarna, which for those who don't know it, it's you pay in installments, which was nothing new in the market, right? Like you could pay for installment through many different means. Then there's paying, you could even do it through PayPal, etc. But Klarna came with a complete different proposition. They came with a very, very young brand, and they actually wrapped themselves almost as a young consumer brand rather than a payment provider. And they, around their payments, they created not just added services, but almost like a lifestyle, where they were there at shop openings, at fashion shows, that they're helping curate the products even for their particular audience, and giving insights back to the merchants that they never had before. And so the level of branding, the level of additional services, and the lifestyle around the payments really shot the adoption of that brand through the roof here, even though it was essentially a thing that you could do through many different means already, but they're really dominating that space here.
If I can add to what you're saying, so what you see, and there are several trends that are happening. So if you look at what's happening in the Nordic countries, so you have Vipps, Swish, and MobilePay that started really from peer to peer. You have the Klarnas, the Affirms, the Afterpays that have gone into the buy now, pay to later. So how do they help young people spread the financing? You now see PayPal that's tried to extend from its peer-to-peer position to offer buy now, pay later, and also say, well, we now accept cryptocurrencies when the real crypto enthusiasts have their money in the Bitcoin wallets or the Coinbase wallets or other, and that congregation, as well as what Jeff was saying about sort of the private traffic selling. So, is Facebook ultimately the one who's in the perfect position, if you will, to be able to pull all those together? Is that how they will, if they get into the payment space, will they bring the private seller aspect to the fact that you want to be able to do peer-to-peer as well as financing, as well as crypto, and how will all of those come together, and who will be the winner at the end of all that, if you think about the younger consumer and what their needs and desires are?
So I have a question, maybe particular, I think, Jeremy, you can provide some comments. We just talked about Venmo or PayPal going from online to different payment scenarios. You have been working with those leading alternative payment that's traditional in online scenarios and bring them to offline or different channels as well. What do you see the biggest challenge for the merchant partners or channels to accept them from the merchant point of views, and also how do you plan to build a different stage of approaching a strategy to rolling out the penetration rate and adoption rate?
It's an excellent question. So what's interesting about how, the platforms that are winning or will win are offering merchants a marketing platform to engage with consumers. So payments is one, but that might be interesting from an acceptance perspective for consumers at merchants, but really merchants want to be able to engage with them, whether that be loyalty signups, whether that be getting consumer data. So you don't get a lot of information on shoppers when you go and you pay with a card. But when you think about the data that, for example, PayPal or Facebook or other can provide about what's happening with consumers, how do I target new segments? How do I get new people in, and leveraging the platforms that are going forward? I think those are sort of the differences that we see. And to answer the second part of your question, really what will make or break sort of in-store payment is the ability to create ubiquity at the merchant level. And it really is merchant by merchant. So there has to be a willingness from the merchant side to want to sign up for in-store if it's QR-based payments. And until there's some level of or tipping point of ubiquity, if the customer or the consumer has to wonder, can I go in here and use my favorite payment method, then it's going to be a struggle. So we're working merchant by merchant, both in small businesses as well as large retailers, to really drive the ubiquity, so that the consumer doesn't have to ask the question in their mind, can I use my PayPal or my Venmo when I go to this store?
Okay, great. Thanks for sharing your point of view. Yes. Since everybody talk about digital cryptocurrency wallet, and it has been actually on the hot topic for a few years, but never rolling out into the market until recently. There has been kind of like demand rising with the whole digital currency market tripled in the past year. So from the merchant point of views, maybe this question goes to Raymond and Michel, Jeremy as well. So on the digital wallet implementation, the commerce side, are you seeing the trend as more like passively waiting for this to happen, or you feel this is the right timing to vigorously and progressively like promote it for the integration of a digital currency into the digital wallet right now in the market, and why you think that? Maybe we start from Raymond first. Yeah, please.
Yeah, I think at this moment it's not the good timing to integrate it, our payment system with Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies. The reason is, are they the users? Right now, the most players of Bitcoin are for investment, not for use. So which means if you link or provide all those payment solutions for them, or the options for them, most of them won't use Bitcoin for shopping or for any other payment. So I think that's very important to understand the user of these cryptocurrencies and what their purpose, what their agenda for them to play that games. However, I'm not saying that will be forever. I think I mentioned the young generation think very differently from us. So in the past, we always say we need to educate the consumers or users, right? Try to sell some new technology to them. But right now, all those young generations, probably they will tell you what they need, and you force you to provide some new solution for them. So for example, we talk about the live stream in post-COVID-19 period. That's a good lesson we learned from last year. As I mentioned, we double our numbers. Why? Because we built some solution typical for young generation, because of COVID-19, after that, all those young people, they started to buy from the live streamers and all other new type of e-commerce business. So that's how we benefit from that. I think for the digital currency, the same thing. All those young generations, if they are more open for this new currencies concept, once there are a lot of players, a lot of people in that sector, then definitely we need to integrate with our system. But as I mentioned, there's another way, which is you need to work with the central bank in each country to help all those digital RMB or digital US dollars or digital Japanese yen to be exchanged and to be services. So I think that's something the whole business, the whole industry need to consider. Yeah.
Sure. How about you, Jeremy? You want to talk about your point of view into this subject, whether it's right timing or when do you think the right timing for the integration? Yeah.
I do have a different point of view. I think that there are two sort of groups. There are the crypto winners and the crypto enthusiasts. So yes, some people are holding them for investment, but I do see. So for example, I know this is sort of outside of it, but when you go, I went with some friends to Las Vegas and they typically win, and with their winnings, they spend their winnings immediately, whether that be on food, whether that be dinner or others, and other things. And I think that there are the crypto winners, and we see with some of the players in the industry that people are taking their winnings, if you will, winnings, and they are spending them, and they may be spending them on, and it may be a group that is spending it maybe on higher luxury items where they can. So there are merchants that do want to accept crypto, because there are crypto winners that feel that they've won enough that they want to spend that. And then I think that we just need to be careful not to underestimate the number of crypto enthusiasts and people that are starting to dip their toe in because they read so much about it. Hey, I don't want to miss out, this fear of missing out. And people are starting to invest and get cryptocurrencies in crypto wallets and saying, okay, I now have this here. How long am I going to hold it for? Maybe at some point I want to spend it, or I want to spend some of it, or I'm mining it and I want to see what happens when you spend it. So we do see from the sort of the crypto winners and the crypto enthusiasts a demand to be able to want to leverage that money. And one of the challenges that we see is that there aren't that many merchants that are accepting crypto payments, and those enthusiasts and winners are looking at ways of, or trying to find out where can they use their currency to spend.
Okay, great. So Michelle, will you tell us, should I be surprised if tomorrow I see the bears start to sell like a digital diamond or something like an NFC like that? Or the other luxury brands start to promote their own digital currency? Do you think I should be surprised, or you think that will still be a couple months? Yeah, from your perspective.
Crypto in the luxury space, like Jeremy also said, is an interesting one. There's definitely there's a demand probably from the winners to be able to pay in that cryptocurrency. The issue is predominantly around traceability, is who's behind the money, and up to certain value points, that you can overcome that. Up to above certain value points, you're not actually allowed to take the money, depending on the regulations in the different countries, where you have to do certain checks to accept certain amounts of money, especially when you're exchanging it for diamonds and stuff like that. So I think it will come for sure. I think swapping out crypto for goods that have essentially like luxury goods and even like prestige cars and stuff like that, they're not always just for fun and for the wearing, but quite often they're also an investment, and they hold their value, or if you're lucky, the value even goes up. So it's almost like swapping in an investment around. And for the upper echelons in the hard luxury space, that there's definitely demand for that. Whether or not from a regulatory perspective that will be possible in the near future, that I do not know.
Okay, thanks. Yeah. So for Jeff, so you have been working with multinational companies, enterprise software in almost your whole career life. Yeah. And so what might be your recommendation or best practice to share when those multinational companies are looking for a global expansion into some areas that they might not be familiar, such as we just talked about live streaming commerce, and also social commerce is super hot in, for example, East Asia and some of the Asian Pacific countries, where the market is huge, but they might not be playing that important role as in the Western countries. How do you think, what kind of tools, platform they should prioritize? Yeah, from your point of view.
Yeah, The Economist came out 6 months ago with a statement that in the East, there's no difference between social media and e-commerce. It's ubiquitous. They're one and the same, and that is starting to become pervasive here. Amazon has made great strides towards it. I think Facebook is trying, effectively trying, and they're continuing to push the envelope there. So I think for brands that haven't embraced it yet, it's inevitable. And there's several live streaming startups that have popped up in the West, in North America, that have been very successful, that integrate with all of the major commerce platforms. It's standard in China to support those types of tools. We talked about digital payments. I think that at this point, if a retailer or a brand isn't accepting things like buy now, pay later, and they're available in every region, Jeremy mentioned several of them, they have to. It doesn't matter where you are in your social commerce journey, that's a must. And then expanding your direct relationship with consumers beyond what was historically just standard social networking, and bringing that into a direct one-to-one relationship. I think that's a must-have for all brands. It doesn't matter what region they're in at this point.
Okay, thanks for sharing. And my next question might go to Raymond. Yeah, and possible Jeremy as well. Yeah. So do you think the e-wallet or digital wallet, they need to meet the same regulatory requirement, like a KYC, anti-money laundering, and all the other security features, as with the bank account and wire transfers? So this question comes from our audience on the bridge. So maybe I'm going to ask you and Jeremy to provide your point of views.
Yeah, I think it's always a hot topic talking about the compliance, KYC in our business. The answer will be yes, for sure. No matter how you run your money business, if the money is moved in different countries or different accounts, you need to meet the requirement from the regulators. But it's interesting. I remember a few years ago, I was made a speech in a conference. I said, KYC, what's the definition of KYC? It's know your customers, everyone know that. But there's a joke in the market, it's become kill your client, right? So why? Because it's so complicated, for the consumers or for your merchants, right? I think the key, I think the good, there's always some good guy or bad guy in the market who try to use your services. If some compliance officers, they just say, oh, there's a list, okay? So I just click. So if I collect all the required documents, then I'm fine. It's a good client. I give them a green light. That's the wrong way to run our business. In our business, you have to know clearly the whole background of your users, of your client. And if for some good client, if they are not familiar with the KYC procedures, they cannot provide the good documentation, then you need to help them, right? But for some bad guy, even they give you the perfect documents, you still cannot allow them to own. So that's the same concept in the digital currencies or e-wallet running. I think most important is to how to manage your compliance program, right? How to reduce the risk to make your solution available to be used by some bad guys in the market. Yeah. So that's my thinking here is, to be honest, the regulation or the KYC will be more and more tough in the future.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah.
I remember when I started my business back to 2003, 2004, you know, there's no license requirement in each country. The banks are so welcome you guys because you guys bring the big volume to them, right? That's our business, right? But later on, 2005, in the US have some the new rules, and later on China, UK, Hong Kong, and many other countries. They started to put a lot of rules on our business. I think with the new system, the cryptocurrencies, the digital currencies, the e-wallet, and regulators will be smart and smarter, and they will look into that and make sure everyone use the system in the right way. Yeah.
Sure. Thanks. Jeremy, you want to provide your point of view since AML KYC is kind of part of your career life. Yeah. So
I think Michel brought up a couple of points around something that Raymond mentioned was obviously cryptocurrency and how to get around also some of the experiences. So, you know, if you look specifically at cryptocurrency, I think regulators are looking at right now, what is the right level of KYC compliance that's required for that? And how do you, and our challenge in developing products is, how do we strike that balance between having to know who your customer is, whether that's the merchant or the consumer, and how do you deliver a not too burdensome experience? And so in the luxury space, if you think about it, and Michel was referring to sort of a payment link or a pay by link, how can you, if you know that someone's going to buy something and they have to KYC themselves, how can you provide them experience where they're not sitting at the counter or in the store, but you said, hey, you know, you're going to buy this item, you're going to have to provide this additional information if you want to pay by cryptocurrency. So why don't you do this from the comfort of your home,
Jeremy, you mute yourself.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just saying, so I'm saying so you can do this from the comfort of your own home. And when you've done that process, here's the link, go to that link and you're ready to go. So there's a way that we can build products and experiences that can take into, where required, the compliance requirements, as well as the luxury or the other experiences or the other requirements that are needed as part of these new compliance requirements that come up.
Yeah, I really hope the industry quickly catches up in terms of, on the back of regulations, making the experiences smooth as well. Because I know for a fact that putting the requirements in place from the government perspective, that's one thing, but then the merchants having to adhere that and having to ask for passport scans and having to get people to go on a video call to check that their face is actually matching their passport and stuff. The experience just becomes horrible. So hopefully I've seen some interesting innovations, and hopefully they become common ground soon, so that these kind of things become a bit more smoother for the consumers as well.
Sure. We need to wrap up in maybe less than 2 minutes. Yeah, so I'm going to ask each one of our invited panelists, the speaker, to provide maybe 2 recommendations or two hints for from your perspective to the audience here from the e-commerce or payment industry to grow their business in this scenario, in this year and the next following years. Okay, so maybe starting from Jeff. Yeah. Okay.
Don't be afraid to innovate. If you're on the merchant side, accept as many payments as you can, because your consumers are demanding it, and to not do that will affect you negatively in the long run.
Yeah. Okay. Michel, then please, any sort to share?
just one. Just make it better for the consumer. Everything, if you start there, then everything else, your whole business plan will fall
Okay,
into
user
that.
experience always plays most important. Yes, you're right. And Jeremy, you want to share from? your
Yeah, I
perspective?
want to build on what Jeff said and just to add a little flavor to that. A lot of the apps and wallets are using whether it be AI or other types of methods to look at consumer trends, consumer behaviors, to make recommendations, to indicate either where you can shop, places you should shop if you're interested in that, to get people to use that. And so, to Jeff's point, if you're not involved with those new payment wallets and trends, you're literally not on the map, not only for the wallets, but also for the consumers. So you're missing the whole map and you're missing the wave of what's happening.
Okay, thanks. So Raymond, please. Yeah.
Well, beyond payments, that's something I want to share with the payment industry. The young generations are changing, and we think we're in a very dynamic world. The most important is not just the consumers. Actually, they have less time points compared to the old days. They're not just looking to the payment solution. They're looking for something else. So beyond payments. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate the panelists, speakers here coming from 3 different countries across the 3 different time zones for joining this panel list and share your industry insight view. Again, thank you very much. Yeah, have a great day.
Thanks all.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Bye-bye.